welcome everybody to another episode of Steady Lads. Unfortunately, there's no handsome crypto cred with us this week, so in absence of that, and because I'm in Korea and I'm seeing a lot of beautiful faces around, I've asked everybody, those of you watching on YouTube, you can see that everyone has touched up their appearance, which is a nice kind of plug-in for webcam. So we're all looking pretty spiffy. I'm also having one grape an hour, so I can start to feel like fit and thin. Justin, are you doing any? Are you taking care of yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. Reintroduce creatine into my workout regimen. It makes a big difference. So doing what I can.
Awesome, awesome. How about you, Thicky?
Yeah, I just started working out again. Drinking water.
Taiki, your touch up looks like you're wearing lipstick though. It's
Yeah, my for some reason mine looks, maybe it's the lighting. Mine looks ridiculous. But I'm like not really taking care of myself. There's like this new Eat to Earn app like in New York. So I've been getting pizza and ice cream every single day to farm these real life tokens. So I'm definitely gonna be like gaining weight, and I'll probably like break out like pimples wise in a few weeks.
how does it track that you're eating it? Like you can just order it and just collect points, or how does it know?
So you go to like these restaurants and they have these NFC chips, and you like tap in and you get like tokens every time you go and like purchase an item. And then there's like a pizza joint and like an ice cream shop like 5 minutes from each other. So I've been like hitting up that spot every single day with like a few other friends, just farming these points. And because no one knows about it, so I guess like talking about it like is like diluting my yield. But the amount of tokens you get is like insane right now. So I actually think that in a few months, it's going to be like one of the most talked about apps.
You need to not eat the food or just buy it for someone else in the store just to farm the points.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I love pizza too much.
I'm pretty sure Adam Cochran is gonna start showing up to your local pizza shop now and trying to farm the airdrop.
Yeah, he's gonna bring like 10 phones, and like he's gonna be tapping one and one each every single time. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I haven't been taking too care of myself either. It's been rough with the jet lag flying back to Asia. I tried to get a massage. I show up and I asked for a 90-minute massage. First time in my life, I show up and they got a dude instead of a girl to do the massage. I don't know. They didn't ask. Like they'll double check. They're like, we only have a male therapist. Is that okay? And I always say no. I don't want to be touched by hairy arms. I want like a nice touch. And so that did not de-stress me at all. And then I went for a haircut. I asked for a number 3, which is like it's pretty chunky. It's not a tight. And then she starts like taking off, like I can see my skin. It's like I feel like an army kid. And I'm like, no, 3. And she's like, oh, I thought you said 3 millimeters, which is like a number 1. It's like literally like what the army does. And she's like, well, it's too late. She's like translating on the app, like in Korean. She's like, it's too late. You're fucked, basically.
Jordy, it's funny you mentioned that. I got a massage just 2 weeks ago at my local Massage Envy, and my girlfriend booked it for me, and the name was sort of ambiguous, so we thought it was going to be a female. I show up and I look up. This is built 6'3", like good looking guy, extremely muscular, and I'm like, oh shit. And I didn't say anything. I just went through with it, and the whole time I just felt like George from that Seinfeld episode, if you guys are familiar.
George?
Yes?
I'm Raymond.
Hello? Oh, boy.
Why don't you open those pants? It's going to be a lot easier that way.
Cool. So yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit today. There's a relevant headline. I think we just saw Ryan Salame has pleaded guilty. So the dominoes are starting to fall in the FTX case. So FTX obviously is determined the fate of our 2023 in many ways, and a lot of it can be stemmed back to an ethical decision that SBF potentially made. We saw his posters all over the place where he claimed that he is in crypto for good. Why are you in crypto? Why are you making all this money? I'm gonna save the world. We're gonna develop vaccines and get mosquito nets, and we're gonna solve AI, which he may actually end up helping on the AI front because out of all the shit he's done, the one good thing is possibly investing in Anthropic. But I think this is a topic that's very under discussed. I did try to Google and like go to YouTube and search crypto ethics, and there's there's basically nothing. There's people talking about like Bitcoin maxi stuff. Before we dive in, like I don't know, Justin, is it a topic that you think about daily or weekly or once a year?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. I think the really tricky part is there's like a anon arbitrage. If you're anon, ethics are not necessary, right? You can sort of do whatever you want on Twitter, whatever it may be, launch your own project anonymously, and then if it doesn't work out, if it does work out and you want to exit prematurely, let's say, you could do that, and then you can just create a new persona. There's also like a geographic arbitrage where obviously some jurisdictions don't have the same regulations that we have in the US. And it makes it really tricky. It's like a really tough landscape to navigate to discern like which anons can you trust, which people can you trust. And what's also interesting on that is like the people that quote unquote rug the most, like SBF, Do Kwon, they're very public people in jurisdictions that didn't allow that behavior. So I do think about it all the time. I do think it's sort of a murky topic and not talked about enough because we definitely in this industry highlight and in some ways like love the scammers, right? Like we in some ways are responsible for Do Kwon for promoting his tweets and not us here, but just the general community for promoting his tweets and making him such a big public figure. And of course, it's not just him; the list goes on. But for some reason in crypto, people are attracted to those big, controversial personalities that are willing to say and do unethical things.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem is that we don't even know exactly where the lines are because these things, Keone put a nice tweet out that hopefully we can put up. I think he said something like, "It's all social consensus. Doesn't matter if it's code, like all this math, all this other stuff that we're doing. It's just trying to help us, but ultimately it comes down to social consensus." And we'll talk a little bit about the poker world. Me and Taiki have kind of been in that world, and there's a lot of shifting ethics in that world as well. But before that, Thicky, I know you've had some run-ins with the law recently. What have you been experiencing lately? I know it's been some Anon who has since deleted his account has put a bunch of stuff out of context, and you've been dealing with some of the fallout from that.
He didn't delete his account; it was suspended for violating Twitter rules. But yeah, I think like we hit this point in the bear market where like we run out of coins to trade, so it's time to like PvP each other like on the social forum. So like a lot of people were just like hurling insults at everyone else. I think there's maybe just a little bit of pent up anger and boredom. Um, but yeah, somebody like clipped an interview of mine, and like I almost feel like it was kind of like a mass media sort of social media attack where they like completely clip it out of context to like paint a sort of picture. But yeah, it kind of went viral at like 350,000 views on Twitter. But like it basically was a clip of me saying that like it tried to imply that like I was pretty much just going to shill narratives and dump on people in the bull market, um, which was like completely opposite of what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I listened to the full clip, and you're literally saying the exact opposite. You're like, you shouldn't do this, and then you're kind of talking about examples and what's going on out there. Um, this guy definitely looks like he has a vendetta, and for those of us that are semi-public or doing something publicly in any way, there's always this risk that someone takes a personal vendetta against you. And I don't know if Justin or Taiki, you've ever had anybody take offense to something. Taiki, you're like the cleanest person in the whole space, so I can't imagine this has happened to you. But maybe has it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, like, there's like this one moment in 2021 when I was like my YouTube channel was growing, and I was like talking about farming on Polygon because the yields there were like just insane. And there was like this one particular farm called DinoSwap um, that like I like made a bunch of videos on, and like I kept making videos, and I'm like, okay, like I've talked about this farm for so long, like how can I ethically sell my tokens? So I did a live stream, I think on a Sunday, saying, hey, like on Monday I'm gonna sell my tokens, so feel free to dump on me, like on Sunday, right? So I did a live stream, and then like on Monday I sold, and like the entire token like just dumped like 30-40%, and then I got like all the hate for it, and I'm like, guys, like I literally said I'm gonna sell, and then I think I was like pretty new to this, so with all the hate, like I got really angry, and I was like fighting with these people online. But like all these people, I guess they're all like behind these anon accounts. It's really easy to target like a semi-public figure. But I think the
Yeah.
best course of action is to like just not pay attention to it, like because talking about it just brings more attention. So that's kind of what I try to do now.
So, I mean, I think it's understandable that when it comes to money, people can sometimes get, very touchy. I think about this stuff daily, and this is kind of why I wanted to do this episode. It's something that I don't see talked about at all, and it's a murky subject because there's so many gray lines. I think ultimately what I always bring it back to is that we're like animals. Even if we're social animals, we're still like Homo sapiens, and we're filled with like instincts. And the two main ones are to procreate and survive and procreate, right? Like you kind of survive long enough to pass on your genes, and that's why we all exist today, because we've had like thousands of ancestors and monkeys and bacteria that have kind of managed to do that. And resources, money, are part of surviving, and unfortunately for men especially, it's also part of attracting a mate, right? Like women are drawn to people who have resources because they can then provide for their children. And it might sound like I'm going off topic, but once you like see this and see the world and see like all the, whether it's Do Kwon, no matter what it is, if we start looking at things in this perspective, you can't unsee it. Like I don't know, have you guys ever kind of looked into evolutionary biology and this kind of stuff?
I mean, I've like seen. I mean, I think everything we do, especially with money, is on like it relates to like the fight or flight response. It kind of plays with our emotions, where if we see something pumping, it activates something in our brain, and we're like, oh my god, like I have to buy this thing. And when something's dumping, it's like, oh my god, like I have to run away. And it's something I deal with all the time. I think playing a bunch of poker in like my teens has allowed me to like numb my emotions when it comes to money. And like the psychology of money is like pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, I never thought about like crypto and how it relates to like procreation and survival, but I guess it does make sense if you think about like practical, like or like just managing emotions in general.
I'm not sure if you guys have read 48 Laws of Power, but this really reminds me of one of the laws. I forget which number, but it's basically court attention at all costs. And I think that's like a really interesting lesson that people like very much take to heart on crypto Twitter and just in our community. Like in our community, it is you're rewarded if you're known. It doesn't matter if you're known for good or for bad, you're just rewarded. And this isn't just crypto, right? It's also like just standard venture and building in tech and whatnot. Like a great example is the founder of WeWork. WeWork obviously is sort of a train wreck now, but the founder was able to successfully raise because he's well known. And so I think there's this huge incentive misalignment where if you're always doing the right thing, if you're always ethical and talking ethically, right, it's less controversial. People are less interested in reading it. Like people want the Do Kwon personality. And I think in some ways like our community built him versus he built up himself. Like I don't think he started off as this sort of like boisterous, like obnoxious, rude, arrogant person. I think he started sending some tweets that might have been on the line, and those tweets are the ones that did the best, and he realized, well, this is what the people want, and it's probably a subconscious thing. It's like a stimulus response, right? Like you're getting the right response, and so your behavior starts trending towards that direction. I mean, you see that on YouTube, right? Like if we could easily bump our views up by doing a ridiculous thumbnail where we all have like the crazy faces. We could add a clickbaity like title. We could talk about unethical things and do unethical things, and we'd have like a better reception in what we did. We'd have more views. So
I mean, let's talk about ethics because, when it comes to survival, it ties in. The thing you mentioned about Do Kwon is an example where the gang, the cavemen, the village is basically, seeing a strong leader that's, is hunting for us. He's going to make us all, prosper us. This is the caveman feeling. And so we're all supporting him. There's this kind of gang mentality. And then as soon as it's actually bad, like he's doing something that is going to bring enemies or it's going to harm us, how quickly sentiment shifts. And we've seen this with Do Kwon, with Sue, with a bunch of other people that have taken that initial role, and then when things were going bad, the amount of hate that they get is equal or greater to the love that they were getting before. And when it comes to like ethics, one thing that I'm a Sam Harris fan, and he talks about how ethics are fully subjective. Like there is nothing objective, even something that we consider to be common sense, like we shouldn't eat each other. Like cannibalism is bad. It's something that is innate, right? Like we don't like cannibalism because if we started eating each other, we wouldn't thrive as a society. But if you're stuck on some island and you're not going to get rescued for 5 days, and you're going to starve to death, and the only way to survive is to like eat somebody, and you just kind of, I don't know how you do it, if you do it randomly or, or how you do it, but you just choose somebody and you eat them and then you survive. It's obviously like an awful thing to do, but we've seen it in movies where that kind of situation arises. It probably happened in real life in some cases, and I don't know if you can blame somebody, or should they all just sit there and starve? Like it's very gray area.
I actually like took a class in business school like called ethics, and it's like called utilitarianism. Like you either benefit like the most amount of people, and it doesn't really matter how you get there. But if in like the island example, it's like if there's 10 people and if no one eats each other, like 10 people are gonna die. Or if one person gets eaten, like 9 people survive. Then ethically, like you should eat eat this person hypothetically. So yeah, I do agree like ethics, especially in crypto. I think, I mean, for now, right? Like no crypto assets are quote unquote securities. So even like things like insider trading is technically not illegal. But like if we all think about it, right? I mean, like most crypto tokens are securities, so it should be illegal. So like, what do you guys think about like all the insider trading that happens in crypto? Like, have you experienced like opportunities to insider trade? Have you taken them? Like, how do you manage like these profit opportunities like when they come up?
I mean, I think something like insider trading, it reminds me a lot of poker, because in poker, if you're playing against an opponent and he can't hide his cards, or he's just so totally drunk and he's just kind of giving away money, uh, you can say, okay, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get away from this table. I don't want to play against this guy. Like he's let somebody else take his money. Or if your goal is to be a professional player, and that's how you make a living, you're in the game, right? Like you have to play. Like that's kind of what you're doing. And if someone's playing very awful against you and giving you an advantage, insider trading is somewhere along that line where the U.S. regulators have said it's illegal when it comes to actual securities. In crypto, it's an open secret that every announcement is front run. Like we can see it in the price. Every single thing that comes out, you're like, oh, okay, clearly somebody knew this half an hour ago. Especially when it comes to projects. So, you have 10 people working on a project. They're telling their friends, hey, like we're going to announce V2, or, what. This is especially during the bull market. I would say like nowadays, announcements are are probably bearish. It's like it's seldom news. But I have personally like heard, this project is going to announce something, and bought. And, I don't know that that is wrong. Maybe in 10 years, once there's different laws about this, maybe it will be wrong. um I don't know, how about you guys? Have you heard any rumors and traded upon them?
I think we all like do it like subconsciously. Like I never like if I know it's like asymmetric info and it's like insider trading, I try not to like participate, just because like I don't want to do anything that can be considered like unethical. But if I'm like scouring discords and I talk to the team and they say, oh yeah, like like this and this is going to happen like in 2 weeks, then yeah, like I think that's information that I've earned.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, because like the U.S. law takes the position that it's the responsibility of the CEO, of like the insiders, to not disclose to outsiders. And if you happen to find that information, it's not necessarily you did something wrong, somebody else did something wrong, that by passing it to you. And maybe you're facilitating them, but
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I've never personally done it. I don't really buy any coins besides ETH mostly, but it is a really interesting question, Taiki. Like if the Discord has 100 people in it and the founder shares some information with those 100 people, like, guys, this is an alpha leak. Next week, we're announcing this huge update. That Discord is so small relative to the rest of the market. Like, is that ethical to share there? Like, yes, theoretically, anyone could have logged into that Discord, but they probably didn't. Most people aren't tracking that stuff. Most people don't care. Um, and yeah, is it ethical to do that as a founder? I mean, I would argue that like if you're just in the Discord and you come across something, sure, that's public enough that it's fine. But it definitely, we have this culture of like everyone wants to share alpha leaks, right? And there's some sort of gray area there of like what's fair to share and what isn't, and who do you tell? But yeah, it's definitely ripe. This industry is ripe with fraud. I don't think it's right to trade on insider information personally, even if it may be legal currently. I mean, it's tough to say. Like you know, I think with the Coinbase case, the insider traders were accused of defrauding Coinbase. So I think there's always ways to go after like unethical actors if they're based in a jurisdiction where you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example though. So like if you're working at an exchange and you're the one that knows what's going to get listed and you trade on it, we've seen people go to jail, right? So like this is like very serious. But at the same time, a lot of the heroes of, crypto Twitter have made most of their money by, you know, hacking, or not exactly hacking, but figuring out when something's about to list, in Korea or somewhere else, and they'll check, the websites and the pre-configured, dot symbol slash whatever, and they'll figure out that this is going to get listed, and um, we don't treat them as criminals. They're just smart traders using any information to make a profitable trade. So this is like such a gray area, and the line is probably drawn at like actually being an insider versus not. I don't know. Take you. What's your take?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think like normally in securities dealings, like any communication to the public is like in a very structured and regimented form. So like a CEO is never gonna be able to like tell a Discord room like oh yeah, we're gonna do this, right? Like that's just it usually has to come out like some sort of broadcast that like everyone can see in some like central forum. So I think it does like add a lot of murkiness. Like let's say if some team member tells you like oh the launch is gonna come out here, and like, I mean you don't know whether like he's told like 20 other people, 50 other people. You don't know if it's public or not, and yeah, it definitely gets tricky.
Yeah, I want to get your guys' thoughts on influencing as well. We're all semi niche internet celebrities, whatever whatever the phrase is. So we potentially we can talk about something and it'll get attention, and attention leads to some people end up buying it, or at least looking at it, getting involved in some way. And because, like you said, attention is part of power, right? In the sense, like you have influence, and power comes responsibility. And so at the same time, you want to create content. Let me just go through a list of ideas and see what you guys think. If is this okay or not okay, right? So um, what if you're sharing a trading idea that you're putting on, or you just put it on? You went long some coin, you have some thesis behind it, and then you tweet about it. Like, do any of you guys think that that's not okay?
I think that's okay. I mean, Twitter or just any social media is a platform to share ideas, and you're just like putting an idea out there. I think where it's like not okay is if you have like some undisclosed paid allocation from the team and you're like tweeting some ticker, and like you dump on followers. Like that's definitely not okay. But if you're like sharing trade ideas on anything over, I don't know, like $500 million market cap or something, I guess it also depends on the size of the coin too. I think it's generally okay, but it's up to like the person to like interpret like that information, right?
And what
Yeah.
if you don't say what your exit point is? Like, you just say, "Hey, I'm entering here." You're not going to tell people. Like, let's say people follow you, and the thing doubles over like the next couple weeks, and you're like, "Okay, well now it's fairly priced. I'm gonna like exit left," and you just sell. You don't talk about it again. Um, are you supposed to disclose that you got out after or before? Or
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. I mean, it's really ambiguous because, like, obviously the timing of when you sell matters. Like, if you tweet something and then you sell it like 30 minutes later, like, I think that's not good because, like, you're literally just using your followers as exit liquidity. Um, so yeah, I think the timing is kind of subjective with like what's good and what isn't. I mean, but like it feels like it's wrong. I feel like you should be able to like if you spot an inefficiency to like just like share it with other people. So yeah, I think it's a really tricky thing.
I think it personally it's usually wrong. So like if you're like Hasaka, like he's notorious for this on Twitter, right? Like if he tweets about a coin, it will go up. Presumably he's filled right before it and he can start dumping immediately. Like there's like no restrictions on that at all. I also think it's very dependent on the conduct of the actual message. Like if you were to write a thread about why you have a thesis for Maker and you're now long Maker and there's like a fundamental thesis there that you're sharing and people like are reading that and it can decide whether they buy into that thesis or not, that's very different than just tweeting like um you know MKR just hit like support levels, it's going to pump from here, and then you just dump it the next day, right? So I think it very much depends on how the messages are conducted and what your audience is. Like, do you most people know what their audience is like? Like for any of us here, we probably don't have the ability, or would we ever like, start pumping some random shitcoin. But if we had a fundamental thesis that we're sharing, that's a little bit different in my opinion. So I think it's, this is still a gray area and it's very case by case.
Yeah, it is. It's super gray area. I think the only thing that people generally, we've collectively as a caveman group agreed that is bad is when, and certain of the large actors were accused of this during the last cycle is you talk very bullishly just so you can exit. You're actively trying to exit, and you're like, oh, the market's feeling bullish this week. It's going to be a big week, but you're actually like specifically trying to get liquidity for fills. Like you're sitting on the ask. Um, is that okay if somebody like Sisyphus or Degen Spartan, like some of these guys who actively say like I will dump on you, they're like pre-warning you that you're flying on Sisyphus Airlines or that you're gonna get dumped on. So they're giving you that warning. It's like really visible. But does that absolve them of this, or is that okay? I don't know.
Well, at some point, people have to take personal responsibility for their own actions. So, like, you're the one clicking the button to buy and executing the order. And, like, I very much believe people should be held accountable for that. And, like, the responsibility falls on them to do their own due diligence. And that's, like, what I believe in theory. But in practice, that's not how most people operate in this space. Most people just, take the lower band IQ approach, or maybe it's the higher band IQ approach of like, oh, big Twitter person just tweeted about this. Buy, buy, buy. So, yeah, I think generally it's definitely not ideal.
Yeah, there's like social games too, where I think there was like this article called Hand of Hasaka, which dropped like 2021, where someone did like some research report of, okay, like whenever Hasaka tweets a ticker, it goes up like 5%. And like all the bots built around that. And then even like the Sisyphus Airlines meme, I like I'm not sure like where people fall in terms of like, like how they view Sisyphus, but he's like usually on top of like narratives. And everyone understands that like if Sisyphus talks about something, it'll pump and then it'll dump at some point. And then people try to play, okay, like if I buy now, like is it going to pump more? Should I sell now? And there's like this weird social element. And I think that's part of like the fun on Twitter. I think like I'm not sure like if people
Yeah.
like view Sisyphus as like a nice guy, but he's like a fun character to like follow just because, he does have so much influence in the markets.
Yeah. So in a way, it's sort of like, are we surprised by the behavior, right? Like if it's somebody that's supposed to be a leader that we're following, that is telling us what to do, and then they dump on us, that's bad. It's like like Teddy KGB when he's like, you trick me, check, and then you trick me.
Not tonight. This son of bitch all night. He check. He trapped me.
Well, you feeling satisfied now, Teddy?
But if it's a case where everybody knows that this is going to be like I mean, DWF, we've seen the most brazen tweets lately where Grachev is just saying today this amazing tweet. So here we have like DWF basically telling us that maybe they're not saying it's them, but they're saying, wow, did you notice that there is a new coin pump and dumping every day, and it seems to be happening all the time. I mean, in a way, like what you said, Taiki, like there's an entertainment element. Like when people bet on sports, they want to participate in this opportunity to predict the outcome or get the right direction and win money. And if we had two worlds, like one world where the market's just dead, every coin is quiet, every coin is going sideways for days on end, versus what we have now, where you can call it market manipulation, but there's a game to play. Like people are showing up because Cyber or whatever coin it is of that day is getting Thicky out of bed, and he's trying to like figure out what DWF is going to do with it and when they're going to dump it, and it creates a sport for us in a way. Thicky, how do you feel about the sport? Is it an opportunity? Is it fully bad? Is it kind of
That's a tough one. I mean, it does create like a game to play, and like if it's socially accepted, then like who's to say it's wrong or right? Especially with securities laws being so unclear, and like it does present an opportunity for people to trade on. I do think like net though, like the amount of value capture that they get from having this asymmetric ability to just corner the market, or maybe they're affiliated with a team. Probably not good for just the overall space and long term health. But it's like the only thing that's happening right now. So like I guess people are, yeah, I don't know.
I think like we have to accept that in crypto there are vastly different types of participants, and yeah, we're all trying to ultimately like make it and get resources so that we can uh, see views like this in a year time, like Lil Lambo says. But ultimately, there's two groups, right? Like there's people who are caring about saving and long-term savings, and then there's people buying lottery tickets. And I've been surprised being in Asia how prevalent this is. I talk to people from Korea and people from Vietnam, and in these countries that are like super into crypto, like these countries are like the most crypto obsessed countries in the world. And Vietnam, they just love trading like meme coins on DeFi. Like they don't trade anything else. Like I'm working on Mantle, and I realized that the only thing Vietnam knows about Mantle is there's like a Mantle Inu coin. Do not buy. This is not financial advice to buy Mantle Inu, but apparently like this is the thing in Vietnam that's about Mantle. And meanwhile in Korea, they don't even touch DeFi because they don't care about all this blockchain stuff. They just want to go on a centralized platform, and they love it when we've showed in the past like these charts when a coin you can't deposit it, so like no outsider can come in and like arbitrage it, and then they just go wild. Apparently there's like Telegram chats where somebody announces that, hey, like this coin has just like stopped deposits, and then they just go like crazy on it. And it's sort of like a lottery ticket, like they're just kind of taking their chance. And it's a cultural thing. It's hard for us to understand. Like, Justin, do you understand this kind of thing being in the West?
Well, I mean, I think we all do, right? I mean, we've all been to the casino and seen people playing casino games. Like, I mean, isn't it better to gamble on like some random Mantle Inu coin than playing the slot machine? Like, certainly the risk reward is much better with Mantle coin. Um, and I mean, a lot of our world is built upon speculation. I don't think it's surprising to me that this sort of like open market is rife with speculation and basically like casino like apps. And I think that stuff's going to continue to grow and also spread in the US as well.
I was gonna say, like, to your point, Jordy, that I think having an unbounded upside is like almost like a human necessity. I think like with a lot of people's current lives that like they're working 9 to 5 jobs, and like the chances that they'll actually make it from it are like so close to zero that like having any outlet to be able to get that uncapped 7 figure, 8 figure, 9 figure payout is like almost. I think it like is necessary for people to like have hope and like people to like continue on.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like if you're playing this optimally and like you're working a standard 9 to 5 job and not doing too well, but you're like, you can pay all your bills, you have a great apartment, kids, good life. It's like, if a really bad recession hits, the government's going to drop stimulus. So are you really worried about like growing your savings, or should you just like buy that lottery ticket on some token? I'm not saying that's right, but I can see why that is like more and more the mindset that like we could see in the future.
No, I agree with both of you that it's a very human instinct, and there's reasons for it, especially for men that we're our lives are more expendable. Our lives are cheap. We go to war, we kill each other, and then the winners take the few women, and they can take five women each. At that point, it doesn't really matter. Well, it'll still create the same number of kids in the end. So society lives on. I'm sure you guys can imagine that my ex girlfriends had a great time with me explaining to them that the only reason that they're mad that I'm looking at the other hot girl is because their survival instinct has kicked in, and that's that. So they should chill out. I'm sure you can imagine how well that's gone in my life. But to get to your guys' point, so if we accept that there's value being created by these lottery tickets, because ultimately like there is this game that we desire to play. What that means though is that everybody who's creating those pump and dumps, whether it's TWF, whether it's some random Korean Telegram chat, those people end up being the casino, and they end up making money because the casino, the house makes money. They have the edge, so they're gonna know when it's gonna dump because they have cornered the spot supply. They're gonna dump it. They're gonna know when this thing's gonna rug because they're the ones rugging it. In essence, we're giving them the power of the casino, and anybody that has attention can create a casino and grab that position, and it becomes a very murky water. And I think you know this is something that we haven't figured out or talked about at all as a community. The 100,000 of us that are left, maybe 200,000. I don't know how many of us are still left around, but now that it's the bear market, before things start getting crazy again, it just feels like we should at least have these conversations. Or where are the lines if you're a casino maker?
Yeah, I also feel like people give these people like power, right? Like DWF, like there's like no one forcing people to participate in like the DWF pump and dumps and like these meme coin influencers. But like in a way, like crypto is like like dopamine as a service, right? Like Dream as a service. It's like you can put X dollars into this, and like something like maybe it'll like buy you a house or something. And I don't know. I feel like crypto has been like so cyclical, and it's been like led by like hyper speculation. And I feel like the next bull cycle has to be led by like actual like consumer apps, where people can actually see that there's value and then invest accordingly. I think most of us, we want to buy things that have value that can appreciate over time. I think just because the markets are boring, like nothing's going up, like these like random meme coins are going to get capture people's attention just because there's like nothing else to talk about. But I do think that I feel like it's just like you know, it's just because like the markets are boring. And I think, once people enter back to space, I think, we'll start to actually see like fundamental value. I mean, hopefully.
I wanted to. I feel like crypto is almost like a confluence of like many different I guess social use cases that have yet to be separated out. Like one of them is obviously like trustless, decentralized, programmable money. But there's also like markets for liquid private equity. And the other third one is like just like a new digitized version of a lottery or a casino system, and they're all kind of like commingled into one thing. Like each token has like elements of each, and it's like interesting how people value them and separate them out like across time.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen the dreams being fulfilled sometimes. There's so many people that know someone who, I know a guy who bought Dogecoin like in 2015 and, kept it all and retired, and is living in Miami and enjoying life. But Justin, as a builder, right? Like we're seeing this on the builder side too, especially with NFT projects. And I know that you're familiar with the space. I think last time you were saying how much you hate NFTs, but with empty promises from NFT projects, because you have this weird dynamic. They get all the money up front, right? Like there's a mint. You can talk about roadmap and what you're gonna do with it, and maybe you try, maybe you don't try. Where's the line drawn? Because it's hard to know. Like, is it unethical if somebody tries but then they give up after a while? Like, should they keep trying until they die? At what point do NFT projects go from being ethical to unethical in terms of their fundraising?
Yes, I thought this tweet was interesting. I wanted to share here. So Azuki Elementals was crazy story in this bear market. They raised $40 million for this Elementals collection. They basically sold this NFT, and it's basically just down only, right? Like people just start selling it when they don't see any sort of value coming back to them. For me personally, the way I think about it is if you have any sort of a roadmap or promise any sort of like longer term development and you can't execute on that or don't, you should return the money. If you're very clear up front and say, this is just a picture, this is just art, whatever your project is, this is what it is. I don't think I'm going to build anything further. We're not going to do anything further. If you like it, you can buy it. If you don't like it, don't. Then I don't think there's an obligation to return funds. But I think it's just like raising venture capital, right? Like if you raise X million dollars from VCs and you don't execute, you return the money. If you want to give up, you return the money. If you can't execute and you don't think it's viable, you return the money. Like you really shouldn't just you keep it, right? Like in traditionally that would just be fraud, right? To just promise something, keep the money, and then not work on it. So I think if there's a roadmap, if there's any vision, you should return the money if you're not executing or you don't want to execute. It's different if you're trying and you fail. That's one thing. That's normal. But if you promise something and just sort of throw your hands up and don't do it, you should give the money back.
But that what that means is that it really depends, like what's inside the person, and only they know. Like, was I trying hard or was I not trying hard? Was I lazy? Like, did family tragedy happen, and then I couldn't actually like go through with it? Only the person knows. And as a society, and I think what kind of thicky experience is that, like, some people pile on when somebody accuses somebody else, because there are people who are taking advantage of these kind of scams, and when somebody calls them out, there is like the natural behavior to kind of gang up, even if it's unverified, because sometimes these things are hard to verify. And I think ultimately it's such a gray area that we have to sort of establish our own story and get it out. I know, like we talked about, um, people in the past that have gotten accused by Zach XPT, for example, and they had their different side of the story. But Zach has kind of established reputation. It's so difficult to respond to accusations.
I think you're in some ways worrying about the wrong problem. Like I think that ethics quote is like ethics are what you do when no one's watching. And I think it's like more of an individual or personal question, right? Like if the Azuki team knows that they've been trying in this example, they've been building, they've been shipping stuff, they've been giving it a best effort, well then that was ethical. And like there's going to be noise on Twitter and in the community, and like there's literally nothing you can do about that. I think it's becomes a personal question of like knowing that you're doing the right thing, and that like most people, if they really saw what you were doing, they would believe it. And I think that's what will matter, like from a legal standpoint as well. Like if I'm not saying this is at all in the cards, but if someone sued the Azuki team for like defrauding investors, let's say, if you can convince a jury of your peers that what you did was ethical and right, well, like that is the standard, right? So I think it's more of an internal question than sort of worrying at all what the community thinks, because people are going to be shouting from the rooftop whatever you do.
Yeah, I mean, how do you generally actually take a view when, on the one hand, you're a poker player, you're in the arena, you're supposed to be buying and selling at the right price, and that's kind of what you're focusing on, let's say, versus starting to see like, oh, there are opportunities, and your out of context clip was actually saying the truth in the sense of, people are potentially able to move markets, and they can dump on people if they want to. Like they can play the long game and wait for the right opportunity. That clip being out of context doesn't take away the reality that this type of stuff is possible, and the only thing preventing it is the person themselves. Like, how do you actually think about it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if we completely exclude the case where someone is compensated for tokens, then like it is still there in the capitalistic system. There's still a huge reward for being the one to direct capital and in a way that like actually sustains. So like for example, someone who like in the very early days like says, "Oh, Bitcoin's a great buy. Like this is the reason why." And like I have a big position in Bitcoin, and it manages to convince like hundreds of millions of dollars to flow into Bitcoin. And obviously, like his assets appreciate. Like, is that really like is that a pump and dump? Like, probably not. And in the bull market, having that trust built up to where people listen to you, you're credible, and like you identify good sources where capital inflows are deserved, and everyone wins. Then like I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think like there are plenty of people in the past cycle that have been like turned into heroes because they've done that accurately. So I mean it's really subjective. Like if it dumps immediately after, or if you affect the prices because of that, then like obviously you're doing something wrong. But it's very unclear, good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a great first chat. I hope we can chat about this again, especially if we have like a guest on that thinks about these things. It's a topic that I'd love to touch upon again. And in the meantime, hopefully we don't have any more SBFs trying to save the world by taking all our money and doing orgies in Bahamas or whatever they think is gonna save the world. Cool. Well, that was awesome. I would like to move on to our closing segment. We're going back to one of the early favorites, which is pasta of the week. Maybe Taiki, kick us off. What's your pasta?
Yeah, so this ties into our discussions around ethics, but I mean, I know nothing about this trader NJ guy, but apparently he got like some token allocation, like he sold or like I have no idea what happened, but the response, basically Donald is kind of pointing this out, and then this auto cannibal. I mean, like first of all, like that tag is like on its own is like ridiculous, right? Auto cannibal, but the pasta here is, yeah, their content is good. Although for sure, as every influencer, they're gonna rug sometimes. Rugs are part of the ecosystem. Embrace them. So I just felt like it was so funny how maybe it's not funny. It's like kind of sad that people just understand that, okay, like every influencer is gonna rug and scam, and it's like just part of the ecosystem. And people are entering this acceptance phase of, okay, this is like what we have to deal with, and it's kind of encapsulates the entire video, and I thought it was like a pretty fitting pasta right there.
It's very sad. It's like the opposite of respect the pump, which was like an epic pasta we had before. It's exact opposite of that.
Respect the dump.
yeah.
Thicky, what do you have for us this week?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I still don't understand what's going on here. I just was cracking myself up yesterday when I saw it. But essentially, Genesis Global Capital sued DCG, and I thought Genesis was just like like a wholly owned subsidiary of DCG, but they sued them over like an unpaid Bitcoin loan. And this guy, just had a hilarious meme because obviously everyone knows like they're owned by the same people. Yeah, I guess you can't trust anyone out there. Even your subsidiaries are out there suing you.
And Justin, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I have this Martin Shkreli is
Whoa.
just and it's a long pasta, so I don't know if it counts, but I would recommend everyone read it. It's absolutely hilarious. So Martin Shkreli, the pharma bro, um, he's been sort of like blowing up in the crypto Twitter space. He does a lot of podcasts talking about what's going to happen to SBF. But in any case, over the past few weeks and months, like he's been sort of sharing on Twitter publicly what a lot of women have DM'd him. Actually, it's a really interesting story. While he was in prison, there were a ton of women that were like very interested in visiting him and developing relationships with him. Let's say, actually, the journalist that was covering his story became his long-term girlfriend while he was in prison. They later broke up, but he said because of all this female attention, he actually needs like a jacked security guard to sort of protect him from this. And it's absolutely a hilarious read. Martin Shkreli, whether you love him or hate him, he's a funny guy, and I would recommend everyone read this one. Too long to go through here, but he's a bad boy. He's like a nerdy bad boy that's made it in pharma, right? He's got a lot of resources.
Justin, for our Spotify listeners, you should at least give us a couple quotes from that one.
Sure, I can do that. I need you by my side to 1, beat these hoes off me, 2, protect my neck in case I'm slipping, which I absolutely never am, 3, check any disrespect because haters are fucking my whole aura up. And there's a lot more. There's so many more gems in there. You guys got to check it out.
That's epic.
Did you go into Martin Shkreli's? Have you looked at his Wikipedia page?
No, what's over there?
Do you know? It's actually kind of wild how he got landed into jail in the first place. So essentially, he raised the hedge fund like 600K. He lost it. He raised money again. He lost it all, by the way. And then I think he raised it third time and he lost it all again. Or maybe he didn't lose the third time. Anyway, he basically lied to his investors that like, oh, he didn't lose the money, and he made it all back on the third time, and he ended up paying everyone back. And then like nobody knew this for like many 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 years until like after he was on TV. Like they investigated him and they found this out, and they like put him in jail because of that. But like it's kind of amazing how many I guess stories are out there of people like losing everything and covering it up and then winning it all back on the third try, and like everything's okay and no one hears about them anymore.
Yeah, I actually saw Martin in an interview say that he was the only person in the US that's been convicted of securities fraud who actually made their investors money. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard him say that with Laura Shin on Unchained quite a bit. Because if you haven't seen his SBF podcast, they're really interesting. I would just recommend everyone watch it. He talks about what jail is like, sort of like a nerdy tech person. So yeah.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments if you guys want Martin Shkreli on the show, and maybe he can be our next guest to talk about ethics with. Cool. Well, I didn't come up with a pasta this week. I've been busy trading. I don't know if you guys have been trading, but I've been doing pretty good because I can push it up, I can push it down, I can liquidate you, or I can bless you. I can force you to go long and go short. I can select random coins, guys, and I can let them skyrocket, but your portfolio will be bleeding. I am the master of this game, guys. Okay?
Wow, where'd you get that
So-
one, Jordy?
Well, you guys can probably guess. The audience can guess. This is my fave. This is Mr. Grachev once again. Well done, sir. You are stepping up your game. When we first started covering Mr. Grachev, by the way, he had 4,000 followers. I was commenting how low that was, and I think the Steady Lads family has been giving him a follow, because here we go, 10,000 followers achieved just a couple days ago. He's already at 12.5. You can see me right there below. If you scroll back, Justin, if you scroll down a little bit, I'm doing my part. We're doing our part here at Steady Lads, Mr. Grachev. We would love to have you on. You would be an interesting ethics guest as well to discuss. So, the amount of main character aura that this guy has is huge, and I don't know if he's gonna end up in jail in 2 months, or if he's gonna manage to be the new CZ, or what's gonna happen. But I'm interested to watch.
Did you see my tweet that I literally just posted it? Inspired by you, Jordy.
I think he's live tweeting our podcast right now. So if you're seeing his tweet and tomorrow you see the podcast, you'll know why he just tweeted that.
You need to set up alerts for all of us so you get live updates.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we had some good pastas this week. Taiki, do you want to choose a pasta? Is it Mr. Grachev? Is it Justin
Yeah,
Brun's?
it has to be Mr. Grachev.
What?
Yeah, he he definitely gets the pasta. Like he, for him to grow his Twitter account in this bear market, definitely very, very impressive. The power he yields.
So let me get this straight. We spent an hour talking about ethics, and you pick Grachev over ethical Martin Shkreli.
Well, what can I say? Like we're just evaluating the pasta and not just the ethics of the entire thing.
Fair enough.
And I look forward to seeing more of his work. So I'm definitely an avid follower of Mr. Grachev.
Hey, Grachev unfollowed me. He unfollowed a bunch of people.
Oh
Oh
no.
no!
He's only following 23 now.
Cool. All right. So another pasta of the week goes to Mr. Grachev. I think he's piling on the wins. He's the chef. We can get a little image of him with a chef hat on. He's done it very well. So Mr. Grachev, you might be one of our future guests, hopefully. And yeah, let us know what you guys think in the chat. Should we bring on Mr. Grachev? Should we find another guest? Let us know who you want to see up next. I think should we do like one guest a month, like every 3-4 episodes? What do you guys think?
Let's do it. I'm still working on Charles Hodgkinson. If you're a watcher or viewer and you're connected, please DM us. That would be a great interview.
You call him
That would be it.
Hodgkinskin?
What's his name?
He doesn't even know that. He's such an eat maxi.
Oh shit.
You're not gonna get him anymore. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen.
He's gonna
Cool.
his ego is gonna be hurt.
Thanks everybody, and see you next week.
Bye, bro.